All right. Then let's get started. Hello, everyone. Good morning to folks in the United States. Good evening to people in India. Good afternoon or late afternoon in Middle East. And if we missed any other time zones, I apologize. But yeah, we are so glad to have this CECRI Alumni online meeting. It's possibly the third meeting that we set up since we formalized our association. I'm so glad to have everybody here. Hopefully more people join us as we continue to do this. So brief agenda for today. I am Anand Natarajan, by the way, batch of 1994. I'll be filling in a way for Ashok Gopala. He's actually in India right now taking care of some personal items. So basically, we're going to provide a welcome note, an intro of the board, a brief update on alumni activities by Yogesh Aguchami. And then the main topic of today, that's kind of the highlight, if you may, right? Career outlook in oil and gas industries. By Sridharan Gopal Krishnan. He's from the first batch, 1992. Okay, and then we'll have enough time for Q&A and next steps, just to let everybody know what the board has been doing, and if we can get feedback from you all, right? We're all here to serve you and serve each other as an alumni, okay? So with that, I'm again very happy to mention that, we are a formal non-profit alumni association incorporated in 2021 in the United States. We did an election, and we have a formal board of directors. So first, for this term, which is 2-year term, starting from 2022 all the way to end of 2023, president is Ashok Gopala. It's so significant that he's also from the first batch of CECRI. And myself, I'm the vice president there, batch of 1994. Secretary is Gopala Krishnan Sridharan, 1992 batch again. So we are really happy to have two people from the first batch in our board. Treasurer is Yogesh Aguchami, 2005. He's going to provide you some updates about what we've been doing. Then the board structure, so these are the 4 officers. In addition, there are 3 what is called as at-large board of directors with committee chairs. So the core team lead is with India non-US operations is Rangesh Siva. He's not joined yet the call today, but I think many of you know him a bit. He seems to be very active in CECRI Alumni. Then we have a core team lead for technology, which is Santosh Kumar Sundaramurthy, 2019. Then we have a core team lead for communications and outreach, Mohan Kumar. And then we have 2 non-voting members, Joshi, John and Rajan. So that's the board composition. Again, I want to pause here and give ourselves a lot of credit in terms of the overall alumni. I was just looking at the numbers. So first of all, this year, 2022 marks the 30th anniversary of the first batch that passed out. So that's a tremendous milestone, I think, for those of us who were there in the initial few years, right? There was always like whether this program will even continue. But the fact that we are here 30 years strong, and this is an amazing number. I'm going to repeat this. We have 1,000 students in our alumni, 1,000. It's like amazing number. You will see more stats about that when Sridharan also has his presentation, but we are a sizable number, and there is always that unity in strength, right? And so it was very obvious that we needed to create something as an alumni. It's kind of another story, right? That we've not had a formal one for a while, but here we are, 1,000 strong, at least 30 years. This is a great milestone. And if anybody is joining from the 2022 batch, again, advance best luck. Congratulations on your graduation. So this is exciting time. With that, I'm going to hand over the stage to Yogesh Aguchami. He's going to provide on our alumni activities. Even though, we've been trying to be as communicative as possible, there is a lot of basic work we have to do to get a nonprofit going. So Yogesh, with that, if you want to take over, I can advance the slide.
Thanks, Anand. Hello, everyone. My name is Yogesh Aguchami, and I'm serving as the treasurer for the alumni board. So just to recollect the memory, right? Initially, this alumni association, right, it informally started to provide some career excellence program in 2019, and as well as in 2021. While we were doing it, we decided to give a more formal structure to create an association similar to other organization. So with that, we started having a original board, started creating the bylaws, and which culminated into being incorporated as the non-profit in state of California, and also getting the non-profit status with the federal government here in US. And finally, we were able to successfully conduct our first elections in November, and elect the board members in December of 2021. those were the critical milestones. In addition to giving a formal structure, we also did some alumni activities such as having webinars during the COVID time where any in-person meetings were not possible. The latest being a career preparation webinar in January 22, presented by Santosh, Roshni, and Satyanarayanan. In addition to that, I also want to mention when we had some issues with medical issues for one of our student Anurag, we came together as a family and we were able to do a fundraising and provide some monetary assistance. So I also thank everyone who supported that fundraising cost. So with that being said, to strengthen our formal structure which we have created, right, we need to have a proper bookkeeping as well as an accounting structure. So for that, we had to open a bank account, and we successfully did one a couple of months back. So we have a proper banking setup for our organization through which we will start paying our expenses. At this point, we would like to have a very minimal expenses, currently mostly towards tax payments as well as maintaining the website domain. With the initial feedback we got from the survey, last year, we are expecting a strong fundraising this year. So with good amount of fundraising in our bank, we can provide the money to some of the beneficial member activities. So for the member activities, this slide summarizes what we have initially planned to do to give value to the members, right? So initially, we want to have a mentorship. Already informally, CECRI alumni are connected on a level, and then we try to mentor, help each other. But through the alumni association, we want to give it a more broader structure as well as easier access to all batches. Career placement support, which has been already being done in form of training, professional communication training, etc. We want to strengthen it more. Conference paper presentation stipends, so that this will help students to travel around, get exposure, gain more experience. And as a long shot, right, we also want to plan, it's not just for us alumni, but also for a broader family gathering, family bonding events, community volunteering, and much more than that we have planned. And also we always welcome recommendations from the members. So if there are any recommendations, any areas we have to concentrate for the member activities, please let us know. So with that being said, as I mentioned, we have started our own bank account, and as an initial seed funding round, the board members have contributed, and currently we have $400 to our bank account. And we haven't kicked off our fundraising formally yet. This is the avenue where we want to do that. So for the folks in US, you can go ahead and start donating through the email ID provided here, fundme@cecrialumni.org. So through this email ID, you can do electronic payments to the account. And we are also planning to do a GoFundMe link for the global fundraising event. More details will be updated soon. So overall, with strong fundraising from the members' contributions, we will be on a strong footing, able to sustain the organization and then continue to provide value to the members. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yogesh. Yes, as a treasurer, certainly it's not an enviable job, but it is an important position. And again, just to reiterate, everybody, we were also successful in getting a non-profit tax exempt status so far in the United States. And so if that helps, that you can also write it off as any donation you would do a charity. And that is itself speaks volumes that our organization, even though in its infancy, was approved to be a non-profit charitable tax exempt organization. And so hopefully that helps. We are in the process of creating those tax receipts. And obviously, right, we are going to be we're going to be self-sufficient. That's something I want to reiterate. We're not going to depend, or neither should we expect any largesse from our institution. In fact, right, we are going to be fully self-funded is the goal. Okay, so that's where we are at this point. Thank you so much, Yogesh. So with that, I think I would like to turn it over to the main agenda for the topic today. Gopal has created some amazing slides and what is eager to share, the oil and gas industry and career. And so, especially for students who are in their senior year and people who just graduated, I think you'll find a wealth of information he's going to provide. So, Gopal, I'm going to stop sharing right now. Okay? Yeah. And let me know if you can take up the sharing from here. Yeah. Go ahead and let me know if you can share it.
Can you put it in the screen? I'm not able to see it.
Okay. So you want me to share now? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, can I go? You want me to share this? Okay, no problem. I'll share the presentation. One second. Let me just switch over. Is it in presentation mode now?
Yeah.
Ready to go? Open?
Yeah, just.
All right, great. All yours.
Okay. All right. Good morning and good evening, folks. I would say that good morning and good evening to my juniors. Being a first batch, I take the credibility that I can see all these new folks who have joined in CECRI, and then those who are passed out, and those in the industries already, those who are working, and those who are already in the top positions. I'm not sure how many of you have been into the oil and gas industry, petrochemicals, or fertilizer industries, anything related to chemical industries. Can you move to the next one? So I'm going to talk about, I'll tell you about, basically it's a career outlook in oil and gas industries, what we are going to discuss today. And I'll take you into two steps. One is about global economy. Before we jump into the career, how does oil and gas industry look around? And from, it's not just now, it's been in the many decades that we have been into oil and gas. Before we jump into the oil career, I'll take you to the economy, how the global economy takes place, how the Indian economy is now, and there are threats that we are facing now with renewable energy source that people are talking about. We are going to outface or phase out entire oil and gas industry, and then this is going to take over. But in reality, it's not. Okay, so that's the assurance that I want to give you. So let me go to the next slide. Here, what you can see here is the global economy. Globally, you can see from the list of countries, like around 5 to 8 countries with the top global economies. So with the US stands at around $20 trillion, and India is about at the 6th or 7th position with the 2.3 or $2.7 trillion. It has been calculated both on nominal GDP as well as purchase power parity. So this purchase power parity is nothing but it is a basket of goods that we buy in a different currencies, but at an equilibrium rate, just converted into equilibrium rate. So mostly in the world, or if the economy is compared, we go with the nominal GDP, which is measurable with the actual in the country's GDP. So if you see these graphs, GDP at the current prices of US dollar, you can see that India is rating somewhere around 5.1, and then around 2.7, and then it's going to increase to 8.4 by 2030, and is projected further year on year. So as far as India, as well as the global economy is concerned, China is going to beat the rest of the world, and we are going to talk about that. So how it is linked with the oil and gas industry? Let us get into the next slide. Yeah. See, you see the global industries versus oil and gas industry by market capital. The global industries, we take top 10, top 100 biggest companies, starting from Apple to Microsoft to Alphabet, and to Saudi Aramco's, which is from Saudi Arabia. The oil and gas industry still it is ahead, of most of the companies, other than few computer-based companies like Apple and all. So if you take the Middle East, for example, Saudi Aramco is standing at about $2 trillion, and followed by the other rest of the companies like SunMobil, Chevron, or Shell, or Gazprom from Russia. So these companies, which are oil-rich companies, who are still depend on this economy, will very well have to survive, because the entire countries, most of these Middle East countries depend on their GDP based on oil production, and they have got enough resource to sustain for another 50 years to another 100 years. Every 10 years they start finding out the new resource, and then they are adding up. That's how their GDP is very, very strong. The depletion rate will be much less as compared to the reserves, the new reserves as well as the existing reserves. For example, if you take Saudi Aramco, on an average, they are taking around, they are sucking the oil out just only 1.7% of the total reserves. So they are going to live for maybe another 50 years, 60 years until otherwise the technology really take a big resolution, and then it takes upside down. So those who want to get into oil and gas industries, I'm just telling that there is an ample of opportunities, and the assets and the production has to sustain, and the entire world cannot be completely phase out with oil and gas and then go with a renewable source like wind power or solar energy or battery power. This will come, it will take its own phase, but by the time we should be able to get a good jobs in these oil and gas industries, even for the newcomers who are passing out from 2022 and further. So let me take to the next slide. Let me see the world energy demand. Before we go, I'm just taking from the holistic approach, where we are, the world, and how we are going narrow down, and we'll go and go touch with CECRI, where the students are passing out. If you take the world energy demand, right now it's about 432 EJ per year. 1 EJ is good enough to supply demand for 1 day for the entire world. So if you calculate this, currently around 2022, we are around 435 EJ per year. 1 EJ is nothing but it's a billionth of joules, billion joules, which is about 10 power 18. And then 2030, this is going to grow, because most of the emerging countries and the developing countries are going to consume a lot power and resources required. Therefore, the growth is, you can see there's a linear growth up to 460. And then from 2030 to till 2050, you see there's a plateau. It's not that much requirement because of these renewable energy sources going to take over, and a lot of policies and the government that impose, it has to try to control the power demand. And similar to that, if you see the energy demand by sector, if you see the first graph at the top, you can see that the transport is taking most of the energy demand. If I take the transport, and then building is taking, all the infrastructures and building is taking around 150 gigajoules, and then the manufacturing units is taking another 150. Altogether, if you put it will be around 400, 420. Only the rest is around 30 gigajoules. This is the demand by 2050, the projected demand. As of now, it's almost the same, but it's growing. The building and infrastructure is growing, and the manufacturing is almost plateau from 2022 to 2050. The growth is very, very less, and the slight decline you can see. So moving to the next slide. So what we have discussed now is about the world energy demand. Okay, the energy demand includes everything, not only oil. It includes the power resource coming from from the renewable energy source like wind and solar and etc. So if you see the world oil demand sector by sector, currently at 2022, it is about 25 million barrels per day for passenger vehicles, including 2 and 3 wheelers, and then commercial vehicles, all the trucks and lorries. That is taking a hell of an amount of crude oil. And then the third one, and the highest one, is the other sides of transportation, like aviation and shipping. So overall, the transportation industry is actually consuming a lot of oil. Okay, if we calculate altogether about 2030, 53, 55, around 60 million barrels per day. Crude oil, in the next graph, what you can see is the crude oil production by region. If you take that, which is North America, then Latin America, Europe, Middle East and Africa, China, India, Southeast Asia, and rest of the world. As you see, the yellow colored line, which is showing at the top, which is about 32 million barrels per day. Okay, this is MENA region. MENA is contributing around 1/3 of the world oil demand. Okay, at present, the current oil demand for the world is around 95 million barrels per day. So we are producing, the world is producing and consuming 95, almost, with the here and there, plus or minus about 5%. So the demand supply is always met, and wherever the demand is high and the supply is less, that's how we see that oil price shoot up. Currently, we are in a very good oil prices, very demanding position at the rate of around $100 and $110 per barrel. So this we cannot expect because it's always swing. The oil projection goes up and down, depends on political scenarios and other scenarios. So the Middle East is at the top, and then followed by, if you see the North America is also equally good because they produce almost around 11 to 12 million barrels per day. And to add on further condensate from the gas, which is about 5 million barrels per day. Altogether, they are producing around 17 to 18 million barrels. But their consumption, if you see, throughout the world, America is the major consumption. They are consuming almost 20 million barrels per day. They are producing only 18, and still there is a deficit of 2 million barrels. That's why they are importing crude from Saudi Arabia and some other countries. So, although they are one of the topmost producer, in addition to Saudi Arabia, the oil is going to decline. Why? Because of these renewable energy source going to play a major role. But then it is going to sustain because the Middle East, the production cost or the operating cost is very, very less as compared to the rest of the world. And therefore, it is going to sustain for quite some time until 2050. The production is going to decline by from 32 to 20 by 10 million barrels. But still, this is the projection. But then parallelly, you will see that there is a growth of population. Currently, we are about 7.9 billion, and it is projected to reach about 9.7 billion. So about 1.2 or 1.3 billion for additional population is going to. And along with that, improvements in the world, developing countries, and so the power consumption, the production of oil, crude oil demand is going to sustain for quite some time. So all these oil companies has to maintain their assets, and they need people, they need a workforce. Okay? As I mentioned, the crude oil price, the current benchmark price, it's going to swing. You can see that by 2008 there was a recession, followed by 2016 there was a recession, then 2020 there's a pandemic, and then now it's at $110 per barrel. So if you take the crude oil region, demand by region, again, as I mentioned earlier, North America consumes a maximum, followed by Europe, because Europe is completely dependent on crude and gas to heat up their houses at the freezing temperatures, and then followed by Middle East and Africa. So this is the overall world crude oil outlook, how much demand and what is the current production rate and what is expected by 2050. So it's not going to completely net zero, it's not going to bottom out. So we will still have about by 30 to 40% reduction is unavoidable. It's inevitable due to current technology advancements and the change of the way people live. So move on to next slide. I'll to the next slide. How the world gas outlook. That was about the crude oil. Now gas, because most of the countries shifting to gas because it's a clean fuel as compared to crude. So if you see the top gas producing countries, again, US is producing the maximum, followed by Russia and Iran and the rest of the countries. And the major consumer, again, back to US only. Because of this, the price, as you can see, the gas consumption is keep on increasing until 2050. You're not seeing any decline, whereas in the previous slide, you saw that the crude oil is going to decline. Whereas in gas, it's keep on increasing, it's linearly increasing until 2050. Currently, we are consuming the consumption is over 120, 130 trillion cubic feet per day, whereas it is going to shoot up to 200, 210 trillion cubic feet. So there is ample of opportunities and a lot of LNG plants because gas producers, they can't supply gas as it is. They have to liquefy to minus 151 degrees Celsius so that the density can be reduced by almost 1,500 times. They can pack as much of liquefied natural gas and then export to various countries. And then they do degasification at where the receiving end. So by seeing this, the resource, if we come to the resource, this table explains about the resource, the rank of countries and 2020 resource, and the world global resource. As is once again, Russia is the top most with the maximum oil gas they have, with about 37 trillion resource. Well, the total their proportion is about almost 20%. They are the major gas reserve holder in the world, followed by Iran, Qatar, and Turkmenistan, and the States. So I'm working for Turkmenistan. Although I'm based in Dubai, I'm looking after assets in Turkmenistan. We have a production facility in offshore, and in Egypt and Suez Canal, and in Iraq. So we are working there. This is a global primary energy consumption by source. As you can see, maybe it's not very visible, but you can. It's a very good. This is a good informative graph. It tells about how the primary energy consumption is going. The case from 2010 to 2050. So it's a projected one. The black one shows the coal. The coal by default, it has to go. It will over the time by 2050, almost 80%, almost 60-70% of the coal-based power source will go down. They have to shut it down or it will be closed for sure. Whereas for the natural gas, there is a linear growth you can see in the blue color. And the renewable energy, as we already mentioned, that it's going to shoot up. And the petroleum, other liquids like condensate and other liquids, all the petroleum products, is going to increase because the consumption is going to be there over the year as the population grows and the demand increase. Going to the next slide. Okay, so far we are discussing about the world. Okay, now we will discuss about the India, where we are sitting, where we belongs to. So if you say the Indian sector, oil and gas, LNG, refineries, petrochemical industry, India is in a very good, strong position in terms of oil and gas sector because India cannot overnight or over years turn off everything into renewable source due to lack of infrastructure and policies, governments, and so many so. So when you see this Indian graph map for refineries in India, we have our husband is around 18 to 20 refineries, major refineries in operations. And across India, we have these gas pipelines, the natural gas pipelines, which is domestic gas pipelines. And other than that, petroleum products network, which is between the refineries and between the ports and supply refineries and petrochemicals. So throughout the India, this is operated mainly by GAIL, Gas Authority of India Limited in the northern region, and other private companies also operating few pipelines in India. So Indian network is about so much of gas, and you can see these all flow from the net only. But it's quite informative that in India also we are so much of assets are buried or on top of the surface, and these all assets are maintained by engineers like us from chemical, from mechanical engineering. Most of these people, metallurgical engineering, material science engineering, those who go jump into oil and gas field, they are looking after all these assets, all these pipelines and pipings. So the outlook for also the India is developing and expanding because of this NELP and HELP. NELP is nothing but it's a new exploration licensing policy. The government will relax a lot of policy in terms of NL. Also hydrocarbon exploration licensing policy also they relaxed a lot. So there are foreign direct investment, FDI pumped into inside India, and they started developing. The next slide will tell you that there is a Indian oil and gas sector outlook. You can see here current Indian market outlook. It is as it is. It's a as of 2021-2022. It's a very latest updated one. So India is the largest consumer, the fourth largest consumer of crude because we have to import so much because our production is very, very less. India is producing around 700,000 barrels, which is about 0.1 million, which is less than 1 million barrels per day. Whereas our consumption is about 5 million barrels per day. So only 1/5 we are producing, and the remaining 1/4, the balance we have to import from neighboring countries like the Middle East. So India is fully dependent on import on crude oil because we don't have enough resource. And the oil refining capacity, we have tremendous refining capacities. And India's got second largest refiners in Asia. so much of production, 250 million metric tons per annum. So the petroleum products, after the conversion from crude, there are many petroleum byproducts have been produced and then it's sent across world. Even it is coming back to the origin where we are buying crude. So the consumption of oil products also increasing around 3 to 4% year on year. And LNG import again, India doesn't have that much of gas, so we have to import from abroad. So India's import is about 67 million cubic meter per day, and we are the fourth largest importer. So natural gas growth is year on year by 9% they are expected till 2024, and then further growth is expected, and it is by default it will grow because of the infrastructure policy, residential transport, energy. The consumption is so high that the gas demand is going to high. So petroleum product export also is in a very good position because we have got so much of petroleum refining companies, petrochemical companies. We convert all the raw materials into product, and that product gives a lot of returns in terms of foreign exchange. So India has got about natural gas network of 32,700 kilometers. That's what I explained before. The previous slide, we have got GAIL alone is operating around 50 to 60%, 18,000 kilometers across India. GAIL means GAIL, they will not operate alone. They will give a subcontract to many people. Many subcontractors will be operating on behalf of GAIL. And there are ample of opportunities in gas industries. Coming to the investment outlook, it is not just the current outlook. India has got a plan to expand, and therefore you can see a list of companies like Indian Oil Corporation Limited, IOCL, is investing 7,000 crores for the gas city gas distribution. ATGL is nothing but Adani Technip Gas Limited, which is a joint venture between Adani Group and Technip Energies from France. They're also doing city gas network. ONGC started another one, Petro Additions Limited, in addition to ONGC for oil and gas production. They are going to invest like this. And then IOCL, BPCL, and HPCL all going for a model retail outlet, similar to the one Reliance Industries already started from about years back. And then 50% of commercialization. GECL, this is another one. This is a Greater East India Company Limited. Also, it's a shale gas exploration. They are planning in West Bengal. And BPCL. So these are the initiatives, investment outlook for India for the next 5 years. This is a short-term investment and it's going to continue to extend. Government investments, if you say there are many initiatives with the government. Ministry of Petroleum has going to invest so much, so 40 to 70 metric tons per annum of natural gas for LNGs, and union budget approved or released customs, petroleum feedback, methanol, like all this to the customs duty relaxations. Then Indian government approved oil and gas projects worth about 1 lakh crore in northeastern India. And then Numaligarh refinery expansion project also, it has been revised now. So these are the latest up-to-date Indian government initiatives and the investment outlook and the current market in India in oil and gas sector. Why we are discussing here about this is that it is not that the renewable energies is going to take over or we don't have any job functions for to get into the oil and gas industries. So there are lots and lots of opportunities in oil and gas, and one can easily try and get into this one. Going to the next slide. So the overall outlook summary, as I explained previously, it's a summary of overall Indian oil and gas sector. It's a very growing demand, and rapid expansion is expected in every sector. And supportive foreign direct investment guidelines, India is relaxing a lot to invest more. And the policy is good enough now. It's a user-friendly policy for the foreign companies to invest here in India. Similar to Middle East, mostly Middle East now, the foreign companies are investing. Why? Because the policy is good here and the returns are good. Although the operating cost is very high because it has fully dependent on the expense. Whereas in India, it's a local population and a local resource. So there is ample of opportunities for Indians with the graduates, and they can get into the oil and gas industries. So going to the next slide. So far we have seen about the world energy demand, and followed by how the oil and gas outlook, demand and supply, and consumption, and it's a projection for until 2050, and then followed by how Indian oil and gas industries look alike, and what are the investments and what are the future projects, what are the government initiatives. Why I'm talking about all these things, that India has got a tremendous opportunities, and oil and gas industries are still it will live, and then it will live for at least for another 50 to 60 years. So we can't completely eradicate oil and gas sector. So let's come to the career outlook. How we can do this? How the career outlook in oil and gas industries. I'll take just one by one slides going through this. Let's go to the next slide. This is about the skill shortage and mobility and opportunity. Where there is a mobility, there is an opportunity. Where people are moving, that means there is a growth is going on. So this is the reality. Where there is a stagnant, where there is no mobility, it's stagnant means something is wrong with them. So as long as the mobility is good across India within the industries, that means India is growing. So that is the reflection of this. And in this, why the opportunities are wide open? Because of the skill shortage. It's everywhere, not only in India, it's worldwide. As you see, the cause of the skills shortage, it is showing the inadequate succession planning for the knowledge transfer and the skill retention. Most of the companies, because of the cost cutting, other things, this is the normal thing, it happens. But when you take it, that is a major thing. About 45 to 50% skill shortage occurs, and loss of expertise due to aging. Workforce, those who are getting retired and expire, those people, because to fill the gaps, there's no succession plan for that. There's a skill shortage in that. And then the third one is the strict immigration laws, because moving between the countries, the international movement, it's not easy as within India. So that is also a stop point. So these are the few top three, I would say that the skill shortage. And the global mobility trends in the energy industry, within the energy industry, we say around 89 to 90% people are ready to move or move within the oil and gas industry. And followed by petrochemicals, which is about 18%, and then renewables, which is 86%, and power about 86%. Nuclear is about 70%. So these are the mobility survey done by the ASFIT, and this is the current one. This is by 2022 mobility, how after the pandemic it looks like. And followed by this opportunity challenge for energy industry in 2022. And what are the opportunities and challenges? Transfer to clean energy, there's a major threat, and it has to happen, and we have to accept it. So when people are shifting to LNG or gas-based power industries, and on top of that, engineering, advanced engineering, there's engineering developments across the world, and changing the way people are working. This pandemic in 2020 taught a good lesson to most of the employers, rather employees, because now they know how to reduce the cost and then increase the profit and increase the efficiency. I would say that. So the way people work, and there are a number of lists. So it goes down up to 9 to 10%. So these are the opportunities and challenges for the energy industries. But amidst all these opportunities and challenges, as to the energy industry will survive and it will flourish, because the demand supply it has to meet with. On any given day, if people say that what is the career outlook in oil and gas industry, if you check any of these like career websites, for example, in a Dick Zone, I just pulled out in one the other day, it shows around 350 plus of vacancies available. It's not directly linked with the oil direct companies, but servicing companies, mostly servicing companies, and across India, major cities. If we take Baker Hughes, Wood, and Weatherford, Schlumberger, and these are some of the servicing companies, international companies, where one can join and then learn and start their career in that. It will get a good opportunity to learn from everything, and then it's a good stepping stone for newcomers. Going to the next slide. Okay, so how are we? Where are we standing? How these BTech student engineers are standing, and in front of Indian chemical engineers. See, BTech chemical engineers, BTech chemical or electrochemical engineers, it's not so big difference between IITs and NITs. We check their curriculum and compare with BTech chemical engineering curriculum, you will find only a few differences in terms of hardcore engineering directly with the chemical engineering, like a process and basically process engineering. Whereas the rest of the things, most of them are it's already covered in this. So one should not think that no way we are less than IITs or NITs. So where we are standing, what is the opportunity for us? So if we do some little calculation on this, there are 12 IITs and around 18 NITs. If I calculate the number of chemical engineers in each IITs and NITs altogether, it's coming to around 2,000. And if we take overall private colleges, private engineering colleges in India, around 182, and then government is 100 colleges. So altogether 182 government and private engineering colleges in India where the chemical engineering is taught. So taking around 40 students on average per intake or the pass out. So it comes to around 7,300 per annum. And 4,000 from government. Altogether 12,000 engineers per year we are talking here. So 12,000 chemical engineers who are joining or is leaving from the college. Where the competition, where the BTech chemical engineers from CECRI is standing. We take the ratio is hardly anything, it's 0.3 to 0.4. So we should able to get, the BTech students should able to get, easily get the jobs in oil and gas industries. Yeah. So it's not that because it's a very specialized field, the entry or penetrating into the traditional oil and gas or traditional petrochemical companies is not feasible. It is feasible. Yeah. So only thing is we have to put a little more effort and we have to take the right direction where we can land. So moving to the next slide. So if you take the BTech curriculum, I just pulled out the recent one or the past one, I'm not sure this. But then if you compare the green ones, the green highlighted, these are the green highlighted one which belongs to the generic corrosion, generic chemical engineers as well as the specialized one. So the job opportunities if we see here, the battery industry, chemical industry, automobile industries, engineering, design, marketing, R&D, education institutes, and other industries as well. Are we able to get a suitable job after BTech? Many says yes, maybe some, and some are struggling still, and some are no. This could be the reasons. It's only a assumption that some do academically excellence, academically well, and then self-motivated, and they stand on their own and they get into the job. But most of the people, if you take around, if you take the bulk curve for every year, the top will get, and then the rest on the left and right side of around 30 to 30% on either side, they will be struggling to get into such industries. Okay, so in that industries, you don't need to go get into a process engineer or a design engineer or the traditional one. Okay? You can get into the very specialized engineering in oil and gas. So moving to the next slide, I'll explain how to compare. So if you want to get into oil and gas industries, these are the positions available exclusively for those who are done specialized in electrochemistry. Leaving apart the other process industries and the process engineering. So these are the positions are available, and these are the industries where one can venture into. So we take EPIC, it's engineering, procurement, installation, commissioning. Most of the major big companies are EPIC, those who construct oil and gas industries, those who develop, design, install, procure. So there are major EPIC companies available. For example, Technic is a major EPIC company. Bechtel is a major EPIC company. Engineers India Limited, EIL is an EPIC company. So in those companies, if we target, then we can get into such positions like a design engineer, civil engineer. These are standalone positions for each company. They may need one or two, or the most few countable engineers. But once you get into this, if you choose that industry and then rightly hit on that, once you get into that, then that's a good career for this. Similar to that upstream, midstream, and downstream. If you take upstream is nothing but it's oil and gas production. Midstream is LNG, liquefied natural gas, and then downstream is all the refineries, the byproducts which are produced. In this, there are a lot of opportunities available, like a CP engineer, cathodic production engineer, coatings engineer, corrosion engineer, risk-based inspection engineer, subsea corrosion engineer for the offshore. So the upstream, midstream, and downstream, the quantity of intake for engineers specialized in these fields are large because the number of industries are high and therefore they need. So the job function of these people are to maintain the asset, to protect against the corrosion. And coming to the next R&D institutions like research and development, product development, research development is well known. Then education institutes, universities, professors, advisors, teachers. Then entrepreneurs can become freelance consultant after a few years of experience. Then you can take a dealership for the products and equipment. There are very good dealership available from abroad. Those who develop something, new equipment, new products, which you want to pitch into the oil and gas industry in India, you can take as a dealership. With your technical knowledge and experience and engineering background, it will be easy to sell in the market. And then comes to the technical support and service, field service engineering, testing laboratories. Again, there are ample of opportunities in this field. So overall, if you take oil and gas industries, there are a lot of opportunities available exclusively for the electrochemical specialization, leaving the generic chemical engineering. So one can choose all these industries out of 6. You can choose 3 or 4, which is very apt for BTech students who pass out. Going to next one. So I'm just taking one example of corrosion engineering. What does it mean? Who will become a corrosion engineer? What is required? If you want to become a corrosion engineer, and it's a very competitive field, it's not just like a cakewalk. And on the left, if you see, there are potential job opportunities, possible job functions, hundreds of jobs related to chemical engineering and electrochemical engineering. I don't want to read out everything. If you see this here, chemical corrosion, chemical advisor, asset integrity management, chemical design engineer, chemical treatment engineer, and then flow dynamics engineer, flow assurance engineer, laboratory analysis. Then come to the drilling and oil and gas production. In that also you will have good opportunities like a subsea pipeline engineer, valve engineer, process facility engineer, methods engineer, metallurgical engineer. So there are n number of opportunities available in this field. And typically for a corrosion engineer, to become a corrosion, what one has to do? We should be good in material selection, cathodic production, protective coatings, chemical treatment. These are the 4 major barriers against corrosion. To protect a carbon steel or any corroding material, these are the 4 methods how to protect a material against corrosion or extend its life. So how do we get this? So metallurgical engineer also jump into this, electrical engineer also jump into corrosion by default, and with the chemistry, BSc, MSc chemistry specialized, those people also join in as a corrosion. So it's not an easy one, but then there is a competition among all these 4 different disciplines with BTech chemical and electrochemical engineers. So, but we are BTech guys have got an edge on this because you study the core fundamental about what is corrosion, in terms of everything. So it is easy for you to propel and get into this as a corrosion engineer, which is a very competitive field and a highly paid job. You'll be working as a consultant rather than as an engineer. Initially you might be engineer, but over the year you become an expert. So moving to the next slide. So what is the role of a technical corrosion engineer or its job function I would explain? The same slide as previously mentioned. Only thing is this, in addition to the core discipline that you learn from college, you need to learn process engineering, pipeline engineering, asset integrity engineering, inspection engineering, material testing. Although the name looks something big, but when you get into that, it is nothing but you have to go into detail, nothing else. So for metallurgy, for example, you start, this is a typical corrosion engineer, how he works. He has to develop a corrosion loop for the given process diagram or pipeline and piping instrumentation diagram and IDs. Then damage mechanism you should know. Damage mechanism, everything is available through standards, specification, guidelines, standard operating procedures, everything is available, international standards. So as a metallurgy part, as a materials engineer or material selection engineer or under corrosion hat, you need to know all this. Corrosion simulation modeling, there are a number of modelings available, softwares available, ready-to-use softwares. Then you should know about the metals, ferrous, non-ferrous, alloys, corrosion-resistant alloys. Then you need to know the non-metals also, like elastomers, fluoropolymers. Then you need to know about the building and the non-restricted testing, NDT. So that is standards and specification. You will find this standard specification at every corners under each discipline, like metallurgical engineering, electrical engineering, chemical engineering. So all mixed together is a corrosion engineering. So coming to the electrical engineering part, because you will be wearing different types of hats under one discipline. Metallurgy also you'll be wearing a hat, and then electrical engineering. Electrical engineering comes complete cathodic production systems under electrical engineering. Inverse current cathodic production, sacrificial system, design engineering, electrical circuits, monitoring methods, troubleshooting against standard specification. Then comes to the chemical engineering. Entire system you will be treating with the different types of chemicals to control corrosion, to increase the flow, to reduce the drag, to increase reduce the velocity. So there are so many things in there. So you will be applying many types of chemicals. Okay? It's called production chemicals and corrosion chemicals. It will be injected in the offshore production field as well as in the separation or the treatment field. So hydrocarbon treatment, seawater injection system, and flow assurance modeling, you need to know that you will be using it. And monitoring methods, laboratory analysis, pigging of pipeline piggings, cross-country pipeline piggings between asset piggings and standard specifications. Then come to the coatings. There you will be using different types of coating for internal and external. Internal means if you take a vessel, you will be coating internally. And for external, by default, you have to coat to protect against corrosion. So all types of coatings and its limitations, where to apply, what to choose, everything is available in the standards and specifications, and you will be using this. And insulation, ceramics, standard specification. So with these, to become a corrosion engineer, so one has to be prepared, or one should be interested to learn all this. Yeah? It's not in one course, but over the time, if you are getting into any oil and gas service industry, not even the direct production companies, even if you get into the service industry, you will be able to learn one by one as I move. So moving to the next slide. So what is the skill set and competence required? Okay, we are talking about so much of things are required and to get into a corrosion engineer job. How can I land there? It's a big question. Everybody will be wondering if can somebody help me to get, or what is the guideline for that, what is the way to get into that. It's not a straightforward method. Yeah? Right away pass out from the BTech and then you apply, you get, maybe a few will get, but if you have a dream to get into, and it's a good field. So how to approach? During the course of your studies itself or after the studies, you get to know that all these standards like American Petroleum Institute, NACE, American Society for the ASMT and ASME standards, and then TW, American Welding Society. So these are the standards, hardcore standards that we'll be using in the regular oil and gas field and in the day-to-day use. So these standards, it's not necessarily that you don't need to by heart everything and you don't need to know each and every codes and standards, but you need to know that where to source out, how to source out, what to use, and where to use. So these things you will learn well on the job. Okay? For example, if you take APA 570, what does it mean? It's a standard it's a code for 570s for piping, and similarly for 570s for damage mechanism, it's corrosion damage mechanism. There are 63, 64 corrosion damage mechanism explained in that standard with the detailed picture and how it happens, where it happens, why it happens. You know? So these standards, like for the 580 is the RBI, risk-based inspection. And then like the 650, 653 are tank construction. How you construct a crude oil storage tank and how you maintain the tank. So for these courses, there are certification courses also available. Yeah, it's all 5 days course, 4 days course. One can apply, you can search in the web and then you can apply for these. It's a bit expensive, but once you get to know, then once you sit for the exam, once you clear the certification, you will be certified as APA 570 certified inspector. They call us an inspector. Yeah. So by having these certifications, you become very specialized in each individual items, individual like piping and flow surveyor, fitness for service, RBI. So this will be applicable. This is used directly on the job. Yeah? And similarly for NACE, if you join to the NACE, I would strongly recommend if you want to progress your career or take your career in corrosion, then join in NACE or AMP. It was recently changed to AMPP. So they are conducting a very course, certification courses like a chemical treatment specialist, selection specialized, CP specialist, all these specialists. Once you are specialized, you are authorized because you will be the authorized engineer to take a decision on that particular subject. You know? If you are a CP specialist, you are authorized to approve or disapprove the design or installation or commissioning or testing. So it's a very commendable job as a subject matter expert. And similarly for ASMT, level 1 to level 2, level 3, you will find this ultrasonic testing, then radiation testing, radiographic testing, then MP and DP, yeah, magnetic penetrant, and then dye penetrant. And similarly, ASME, if you go to ASME, 31.3 is for the process piping, then 31.4 for is the liquid pipeline, transportation of liquid pipeline, 31.8 is for gas pipeline, then 31G is for the remaining strength, how the remaining strength of the pipeline can be assessed after 10 years, after 15 years of service. So it's all written in these codes, and there are a number of calculations in there. So once you go through it, and then once you learn the concept and the fundamentals behind this, then it will be easy for you to understand the concept on the field. And similarly, CECRI, it is for the welding. American Welding Society conducts this. So by getting one or two or mix of certifications, mix of specializations, you can claim yourself that, okay, you acquired enough competency in terms of corrosion mitigation and corrosion testing and recommendations what you can do as an expert. So that's what I mean to say that here. So in addition to the regular studies what you're doing, if you can focus, those are the new guys and those who passed out, you should have a clear-cut plan that if you want to get into corrosion career, then try to finish all these certifications. You choose whichever is feasible, whichever is easy for you to complete, and then get hold of those certifications. That will really add value to you and then to get a better job. So moving to the next slide. So this is, I just want to explain about the typical offshore and gas production operations, how it works. And those who are already in these operations, maybe they can easily understand. But those who are not, this is about how the oil is produced in the offshore field. Before going to they put the rig and then they go for drilling up to 20,000-30,000 feet. Based on seismic survey, they will find out where the oil resources are available. And then they drill and then they install this production Christmas tree with casing and tubing. They call the casing, there will be inner casing, outer casing, and then extra outer casing. These casings are for about 12 to 15 inch, and then the production tubing through which oil comes up in that. It will be about 3 inch, 4 inch, like that. And this, once the oil comes out from here, from subsea assets, it's mentioned in the top one, the left flow process flow diagram. You see that subsea assets, the reservoir fluids is coming out. There are two types of production. One is natural production. By its own pressure, it will pump out the oil once you drill it. Other one is by enhanced oil recovery. You have to pump with the external source. So this oil comes out and then goes into the separator. It's called HP separator or LP separator, high pressure or low pressure separators. Then the separated water, because always this oil never comes alone, it comes along with some kind of multi-phase fluid. So it comes with water, oil and gas always, unless the reservoir is exclusively for oil without any gas, or exclusively only gas. For example, in Qatar, it's all gas field. You'll find very, very, very little oil, only gas, and then condensate will come along with. So there's a called gas field. In Russia also same, it's gas field. And where you are tapping on the crude oil field, you will get multi-phase field. So this has to be separated, and it gets separated by in the separators, and then the gas went out from there. It goes to the gas compression. You can see the gas compressor. First stage gas compressor, then second stage gas compressor. In between gas compressor, you find a knockout drum to knock out any gas, water or moisture carries through the gas, so that the compressor will not get damaged. And then it compressed. It will increase the pressure to, say, for 100 bar to 200 bar, and then send it across. So the oil goes to the export. So it goes treatment, further separation if required, otherwise directly to the export pipeline. Well, this is about the water injection on the right. You see that blue color one. To maintain the reservoir pressure, as much as water, oil, gas, everything you're taking, sucking from the earth, it has to be maintained, the pressure. Otherwise, your production will start declining over the year. So to maintain that reservoir pressure, we'll be injecting the seawater. You suck the seawater from the sea and then treat it. You remove oxygen, you remove bacteria, you remove suspended solids. There are a number of tests it has to pass through, and the quality of seawater is very stringent before it goes into the reservoir. So here, again, the corrosion engineer plays a major role, the laboratory chemistry plays a major role, the chemical treatment engineer plays a major role here. And here also, even the reservoir will be, if the water is very having high scaling tendency, then we'll be injecting a scale inhibitor here. If it's very corrosive, we'll be injecting corrosion inhibitor here before it comes to the surface. because it has to be protected, the tubing. It depends on metallurgy of the tube. That's why during the initial design, they will check, they will do this test, and then they find out whether the fluid is corrosive or not. If it's corrosive, either it can be controlled with addition of chemical, or should I go for higher metallurgy, which is like corrosion-resistant alloys, which can withstand at extreme conditions. So this water injection system is part of the oil and gas production. You will find it everywhere. All the oil and gas production system will have this to compensate the reservoir pressure. So this is a more generic explanation about how the oil and gas upstream works. It's a very, 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 very simple form. Because each and individual item, corrosion engineer participates from the design stage till the crude oil sent to the ship export. Yeah. So in the upstream oil and gas industry, and even in the petroleum, in the refinery industries, again in refinery, for example, if you take the Reliance Industries, they buy crude, opportunity crudes, because opportunity crudes are again the low cost crude available in the market, so that they can make maximum profit out of it. So to treat and refine such crudes, your refinery has to be designed in such a way that it can stand against all this corrosion. Because when you buy an opportunity crude, it might be it's a sweet or it could be a sour. Sour means high H2S with high sulfur. The high sulfur crude is always very expensive to treat, to refine, and than the sweet crude where there is no H2S or sulfur with very low content. So corrosion, yeah, please.
Yeah, but I just want to see, this is amazing information. Just want to see if there is any more maybe factor prevention.
Yeah, I think we are coming to the end. Yeah, we're coming to the end.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah. So the oil and gas industry, what I mean to say that there is an ample of opportunities for the corrosion engineers, chemical treatment engineers, cathodic production engineers, material selection engineers, and RS-based inspection engineers, integrity engineers, subsea pipeline engineers. I was a subsea pipeline engineer for about 3-4 years, about 5 years back. I was completely looking after all the pipelines because all the pipelines are transported under the sea. Either it's buried or laid on top of the sand or on top of the soil. It depends on depth. In the Middle East, it's about 20 meters, which is about 60 feet, 50 to 60 feet depth. So, and it's very corrosive. External oil is very corrosive, and whatever oil you produce also will be corrosive in most of the oil field. So, it's very, very business critical to operate an asset and extend its life, because everything at the end of the day comes to life cycle cost. How much I invest, how much I get back, and how long I can prolong. So that plays a major role. So the corrosion engineers plays a major role in this part, inspection corrosion. Moving to the next slide. So, as I explained earlier, the primary phase, the student phase, those who are still in the college can get enrolled in this membership in the professional organization. These all are not very expensive. It's cost, for example, NACE AMPP costs about $150 per year. For student member, I think it's free. So you can get it as a student member and you get access to the material performance. There is a book, monthly issues you'll get. It's a soft copy or hard copy you'll get. And then that will tell you, share you what are the current updates in the oil and gas industry with respect to materials. Yeah. New alloy, lightweight alloy. For example, in aeronautics, they have invented a new alloy which is very lightweight with high tensile strength and low cost alloy, which they want to replace with the heavier alloy in aeronautic industries, the construction. So in nuclear industry also they need a corrosion engineer. And similarly, water, if you take a water system across the domestic water supply, that also very, very, very important, where the corrosion engineer plays a major role. So if you take the secondary phase, those who want to study further, they can go for this material science engineering, petroleum engineering, ocean engineering, pipeline engineering, microbiological engineering. It's a very, very specialized microbiological engineering, and there's a lot of demand for that. For all these localized corrosion occurs in pipeline, which cannot be predicted by any software. And even if I run an intelligent picking tool in the pipeline, which will read the complete thickness of the pipeline, the subsea, and it will tell you the data in a different form, where the interpreter tell you that what is the thickness loss, where the corrosion is taking place. And so even that technology is unable to predict where the corrosion takes place because of microbiology. So microbiology is also very, very, in ExxonMobil, one of my friends, He used to consult with when I was at Ratnam. So I used to deal with him, and he explains a lot about the microbiology, how it works, how to mitigate this, how to kill it, the kill test, how much time it will take, which chemical will work like a THPS or glutaraldehyde. So that's a very good field. So those who want to pursue into the higher studies related to corrosion or petrochemical industries, so these are some of the measures they can take. And second, after the graduation, those who want to join the targets to get into oil and gas industries, how to get into that. Even if you are not into the industry, if you want to get into this, then do all those certification courses, and then get acquired to that. So that will help you to divert from wherever you are, whichever industry you are, into the oil and gas industry. So, and also one more thing is that once you get into the oil and gas industry, you do not stay for a long, stay for 2-3 years, learn as much as possible, and then shift later to that same. Yeah? The best starting point would be any service industry, because you will be put in the field, and you are bound to learn in the field with the hardcore engineering. And with that, you will be able to come in a very commanding position, a technically sound person, because these things for corrosion, there is no A is equal to B. There is no straightforward answer. It's very subjective, and it's completely based on the holistic approach. If you are coming to for a leak, for example, if you take a pipeline leak in the subsea and you are seeing oil floating on top of the sea, you should be able to judge that where this oil is coming from, what pressure is coming from, what temperature is coming, which reservoir is coming from, what is this gas oil ratio, whether this velocity is adequate enough to pop out that much, what is the strength of. So you will be correlate from upstream to downstream and everything. So then you will be able to tell that, okay, can you stop this? Can you do this? Can you divert this flow? You will be able to tell that. So that to come to that commanding position, it will take some time. So these things is all not written in any of the books or any of the standards. They give you the guidelines. If it comes like this, you do this. But it is up to individual person who are attending or facing the scenario at that point should be able to know the complete asset, how it works, because process engineering you should know, mechanical engineering you should know, pipeline engineering you should know. So with that, you should be able to assess the business. That's how it works out. So whoever want to pursue into this field, it's my recommendation to the approach, the right approach that you can look into this. So going to the next slide. I think that's India. So overall, we started with world demand for energy demand in the world, and then how the oil and gas sector in the world looks like. It's not going to kill, it's not going to phase out completely. It will sustain, and because if you take the production cost for Saudi Arabia for oil and gas per barrel, it costs only $5.5. The production cost for Saudi Arabia. In UAE also, it is almost the same. It's about $6.2 per barrel. So unless the per oil production rate or production operating cost comes bottom out below this, where the renewable energy source which can compete with at that cost, then only this will be completely phased out. Until otherwise, this will stay put, and then for BTech students from CECRI, you can pursue and get better jobs. So I'm into this oil and field now 30 years after I passed out in 1992. I got initially I started with the plating industry. I was in the plating. I was working in Vizag. I joined in a piston rings company where they manufacture the rings. And for that, we do external hot chrome plating. It's an electrochemical process with impressed current system. It's a very beautiful process. Still I remember that I used to do for 100 microns coating, and then it goes to the honing machine, where the piston rings will be honed in such a way that its surface should be smooth enough so that it will work inside the piston for all automobile industry. Two-wheeler, three-wheeler, different types of pistons and different types of material, casting, metallurgy involved. So from there, I embarked into Middle East in 1995. Then I got into CP system, cathodic production. I was into one of the contracting companies, a French company in Abu Dhabi. That was my first job, landed in 1995. It is my own interest that because we are good in electrochemistry, what we learn, I thought, okay, I should venture into that line rather than trying a new line, where from the scratch. So So that was a little easy for me at that time. So with a lot of interest, personal interest, studying, and then I got into this job as a cathodic production engineer. Was my first job in 1995 in the Middle East. But that gave me a very good experience in the field, working in the field, doing lots of monitoring and surveys. But when you do by yourself, you learn how to handle this equipment. What is a fluke meter? What is this DCVG, direct current voltage gradient meter? What is SIP survey, closed interval potential survey across the pipeline? Yeah. So when you do by yourself along with the technicians, you get to know more, and that will be there forever. And from there, I was there for about 2-3 years. I learned almost 70 to 80% about cathodic production. Then I thought that it's good enough for me to learn about this. Then I have to diversify myself. So, but that company was specialized only for the pigging and this production. So I got into do for the pigging, subsea line pigging. My first job was in Abu Dhabi. I was doing for the Total ABK. Total is a French company. They were operating a small field in Abu Dhabi. And for this, that was my first visit to offshore. I was staying in a boat for about a week doing a pigging pipeline cleaning, with the pigs. It's a soft foam pig, pushing from one end and you will receive the other end. That's how we do the cleaning of the pipeline subsea line. So there I got to learn about the pigging and then intelligent pigging. Then I moved to one of the major operating company, oil and gas operating company in Qatar, Occidental Petroleum. It's a US-based company. And there I was stay put for about 8 years. And that gave me a lot of experience, exposure in offshore. I was doing a rotation job about 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off, 1 month work and 1 month off back home, India. So that gave me an insight into how the drilling rig works, how the oil is produced, where it comes to the separator, how the gas is separated, how it's treated with glycol. All these process engineering, chemical engineering, everything right in front of me. And I used to work a lot on that to learn about it physically. So that gave me a very good edge on oil and gas from offshore field. From then I moved to Kuwait Oil Company, which is onshore based. And I was in refinery in Kuwait National Petroleum Company for about 3 years. Then I was in Oman so I moved around in Oman, Middle East. And then about 6 months in UK, was in Newcastle. And that's how I developed through my career. So everywhere I moved, I started learning about the corrosion, all aspects, material selection. I was with one of the design company, Tabodi, just for 1 year. Because I purposely joined the design company so that I will be able to learn about how they are designed, what material selection they are doing, what software they are using, how it is developed, what is piping specification, what is pipeline specification. So these things, I forced myself to jump into that, and then I started swimming in that. So that's how if you want to take a career in this line, it is possible. And as an engineer from BTech, it's more than enough to be successful in this field. So from there, I learned about, then went to Qatar Gas, which is LNG, because LNG field was new to me. I never worked, so I jumped into LNG. And LNG, it's completely different altogether. So it's all stainless steel and high-grade materials to be used because of a very low temperature application. So from the gas, again back to oil, upstream oil. Now I'm based in Dubai, looking after the assets in Iraq and Egypt and Turkmenistan, which is a Russian territory. So all I would say that oil and gas field has got ample of opportunities, and those who want to pursue into corrosion, most welcome. And if you have any doubts in terms of technical questions, or if you want any to ask for anything, I'm most you can approach me. Yeah? I'll leave my email or contacts, and as alumni that we should help each other, and having experience in this field, I'm happy to help you guys. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gopal. That was amazing. I think we promised everybody a wealth of information, and you certainly delivered on that. Right? So that was great, and we will certainly share these slides, and hopefully we will record. There is one question, just in the interest of time. There's one question that came up in the chat. Santosh, if you're there, you can read it out. If not, I can. So it seems like there is one candidate called Yuvraj. Yuvraj, if you're there still, right? He seems to be stuck in Gopal, let me know if you read it too. He's trying to take an AMPP Senior Coding Inspection Certificate and trying to understand if there's any other CECRI alumni who did this course, and how to tap jobs in offshore platforms. So I would also recommend maybe if we can copy paste into some kind of a talk, we can also respond offline or if you have some answers now, feel free to some inputs. Okay?
So you want to join us as Senior Coating Inspector?
So he's trying to take an AMPP Senior Coating Inspector certification, and he wants to know if any other CECRI alumni have done this course and are asking for guidance.
Okay.
So we can make sure he connects with you also.
Mm-hmm.
And then
coating inspector, it's also one of the good choice, because if you take all the paint manufacturing companies, okay, they are looking for a technical guy who can sell their product. Like if you take Asian Paints or Hempel Paints or International Paints, So these companies are international companies. They are the major players in the Middle East and rest of the world. Okay. Because if you go for any maintenance job or major new projects are coming up, they will come and approach the production people or the operators in the major direct companies, corrosion engineers, for selling their product. So they are looking for engineers who have got a sound knowledge about coating. So taking this coating inspector program, it's a good one. Yeah. It's for sure you will get a career progress as a coating specialist. Only thing is the coating specialists are rarely one or two per company. They will not keep many people because they need just one expert in coating itself. So if you're pursuing, you should excel in that continuously. You should not drop in between. You should continue until reaching the maximum certification in coating, so that you will be in a very commanding position.
Okay, great. And then there's another question that came in from Saravana Kumar. He wants you to see if you can elaborate between the freelance consulting and dealership. Whatever information you have. I think there was a slide where you talked about freelance consulting and dealership opportunities. Yeah, leadership opportunities as an independent, I don't think you can learn something. But freelance consultant, yes. If you are expert in one particular field or one particular discipline, suppose if you're a material selection or if you're a material specialist or a chemical specialist, then yes, you can become a freelance consultant. You can be a freelance consultant for like a Baker Hughes or servicing companies, or you can have your own company and then servicing. You take a job for the major companies and then you can be a freelance. Or you can join with another freelance company, those who are already in the field, those who are doing it. And if you can join as a partner, then they get a major project and then they will ask for certain freelance consultant of specific field. They're not having it. So they will contact you directly. Okay, can you do this? For example, a CP specialist. They may be taking a major contract, but they don't have a permanent position for a CP guy who knows everything. So they may give a contract, a subcontract, or engage you temporarily for 3 months or 2 months. Can you design the CP system for this tank, a storage tank, and then give us? So that freelance is also possible. So as a leadership, then you need to know everything, because for I think Gopal, he was asking more about dealership versus dealership. Okay. Yeah, dealership, yes. Dealership, for example, monitoring equipment. One of the monitoring in corrosion, if you want to take a thickness measurement, if you find out a measurement, because recently I come across from Germany, they were doing, because we lay the pipeline subsea with mostly with concrete coated. Okay, because to maintain the buoyancy force, the pipeline has to be externally concrete coated by about 5 centimeter thick, 50 mm thick, so that it maintains. So when you are repairing the pipeline, it's not easy to break the concrete and then reach the surface of the pipe. So the German people have come out with an instrument. The diver go inside and under the sea, and then you just fix that equipment and operate from the top surface, and that equipment cuts the concrete wherever you mark or wherever you want to do it. So such equipments, it's a very good one, and then the companies will be looking for a dealership for such equipment to sell their product in every territory, for Asia, for Middle East, or for East. So if people who are known about such things and with the technical knowledge and able to explain and sell it, then such dealership you can take. That's for the equipment. Similarly for the chemicals. Similarly for the coatings, even for coatings also you can take dealership. So dealership is a good venture, yeah. Thank you. And I'm also copying the questions into a Q&A in our Google Doc, so we can also provide some offline responses. Yeah. And there was another question in the chat which I can address. When Vijay was asking about hydrogen economy, I asked him to look up OMIM, because OMIM, our own very own alumnus, Chokalingam, is actually a CTO there. So There's another question from Infant Raj. How do you see the future of EOR chemicals like polymers, surfactants? Because nowadays production is decreased due to shale or carbon dioxide. No, production now is decreased to shale. Moving to shale will not sustain for long, because shale is a very high
expensive production form, because shale gas, to get a shale gas from the tight gas reservoir to frack it and bring it out, it requires unless oil sells at the rate of $80 and above. If it goes less than that, then shale gas, they will just shut it down. So shale is not a major threat because this oil price will not sustain for a long. This $100 is a temporary hike, and then it will go down and reach about $60 once the offset is done. The inflation economic offset is done. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I don't see any other questions right now. Thank you again for your patience, and thanks to everybody else for their patience. Is there any other question about the board or the alumnus itself that we can address? Certainly, we'll continue to keep doing these sessions. We're also looking forward to releasing a newsletter. So again, like we mentioned, right, the strength is the numbers are in our strength. Right, we have 1,000 plus doing something or the other, right, in the world of energy or be it even IT. So we just don't want to restrict to that. So this was really a wealth of information. We will make sure we share the slide deck too. Thank you to Gopal, if you don't mind. And I think we're trying to record it too. And then I'm also going to post the Q&A. If you can take a little bit of time to update the answers, we will also share that. Just going once, going twice. I know we want to make sure that we are by within at least complete by 12 p.m. Eastern, which is 9:30 India. So any other questions from anybody else from the alumni? Did we, any questions or comments about this type of format? Any inputs you have for us? In any type of topics you're looking for? Of course, we have our WhatsApp, Telegram, email. There are multiple ways to communicate with us. I'm just going to wait for probably 30 seconds if there's anything we can answer about the alumni itself.
Yeah, Anand, one major question I have is for Gopal Sridharan is, how do students who are graduating from our BTech or students who have few years of experience or anyone who is in India, how do they get to Arab countries for a job? What is the easiest, safest way to get there, right?
Yeah, it's easiest, safest is they have to work somewhere or either direct or indirectly in India into oil and gas industries or servicing industries. For example, Indian Oil Corporation and ONGC is operating in Tamil Nadu, Karaikal. So there are 2-3 companies are subcontractors for their installation of pipelines. So if the BTech students, if they get into such small companies, very small companies, yeah, and they will get to know that they will learn on the job by seeing because they can pick up fast based on their background. And with that, if they spend for 1 or 2 years, then they can send CVs. A lot of recruiting agencies available, and as well as not directly to the company, because company will not entertain the intake directly from the people. They always go through the recruiting agency because they don't want to take all the headaches. So they have to approach the recruiting agency only.
Yeah. So Gopal, that will be great if you could provide that extra information, right? Who are the agencies? A short write-up of it so that our students can benefit with regards to getting a job, sure, right? So that will be of excellent value. Yeah, thank you.
That's a great point. With that, just again going once, going twice, in terms of any questions about us, the board, the alumni, our interaction with our alma mater. Just there was one feedback. It'll be good if you pre-inform about the forthcoming meetings. Yes, we will do our best. What we plan to do is also get newsletters in quick succession. So once we arrive at a good cadence, the goal at least is to do once every quarter, where you will get board updates, meeting updates, and these kind of technology updates. So yes, we will also make sure we provide sufficient advance notice, knowing that everybody has to schedule. With that, that's a good feedback, Sarana Kumar. Thank you. And thanks for everybody who stayed back with us. Thank you for your patience. I know it's a Saturday, you have 1,000 things you can attend to. The fact that you stayed with us means that you're interested in this topic and our alumni. That bodes well for everybody. Again, thank you so much, and we will stay in touch. Thank you.